Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm speaking with several technology leaders about AI, about Elon Musk, about video game graphics, and more. We're exploring innovations in this episode from SpaceX, from Google, from Stanford University, and beyond. Welcome back to the Alfie Whattam podcast.
The Alfie Whattam podcast.
Okay, so the first thing I wanted to discuss is film actors being replaced by artificial intelligence. This is new software which allows you to swap actors for virtual models. These are fake models, they don't exist obviously, but you can replace an actor on a screen with this render, and in theory you could swap them for another actor or anything else really. So keen to discuss how this will affect films, TV, YouTube, etc, etc. Let's show the clip. And I'll give commentary on this. So this is the individual. He is walking down the street and boom, he is instantly replaced by a robot. This person is instantly replaced by a CGI cartoon. This person is instantly replaced. They run the software, bing, 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 da, 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 code happens, and then instantly the person has been replaced into a model, showing in real time what that looks like there. This is available now. It's not some demo. This is actually available for purchase, and this will be used very soon in Hollywood. This will be used very soon across the world. We're going to see movies with actors being replaced left, right, and centre, really. So obviously, pretty cool, pretty groundbreaking about how this can happen, and the use of artificial intelligence being used not just in theory, not just with something like GPT, but now in industry and commerce. Let's get your reactions initially to that. Rui, when you see that clip, what do you think?
Wow, so many things, right? I don't think it's necessarily new. It's been on the cards for quite a while.
Yeah.
Opportunities, dangers, adaptation, all of that is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Opportunities, cost reduction, of course, right?
Yeah.
More content for sure.
Yes.
The quality of it's a question mark.
Yeah.
But there's always opportunities with these new technologies and challenges as well.
Yeah.
Challenges for not just the film industry, but so many other industries challenged by AI.
Yeah.
And I think we all need to understand what's the next iteration of using these things, right?
Yeah.
So opportunities, challenges, excitement, but also a little bit scary. Because are we losing ourselves in the process or not? Are we, enhancing ourselves? There's so many questions there.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I mean, it's definitely going to be cheaper to make movies. It's definitely going to be easier. But definitely, is that a good thing for people, for humans? Who knows? But yeah, those are good points. What are your thoughts, Lorenzo, when you see that clip?
Yeah, I guess I just had one thought really, and all that other stuff as well. I agree with it as well, but. The main thing I realised was that it does give huge opportunities to actors who might otherwise not have parts in certain roles.
Absolutely.
So that's the real big thing. It kind of increases the diversity of the film industry.
Yeah.
So that's quite exciting, I think.
So potentially an actor being filmed elsewhere, having different shots of him smiling, laughing, etc., and then just being able to pop that onto a video.
And then naturally the film industry itself has to be biased because the bias of the role itself, that person is like a certain origin or has certain height or weight.
Yeah.
But then you got like this thing that completely you don't even need to worry about that.
Well, I wonder if different movies will end up being released with different actors doing the same. Like you can have Lord of the Rings, but with different types of actors or something. Or maybe if a movie is released in China, you have it with a Chinese cast, and you have it, in the West with English cast. It'll be interesting to see how that happens. Lucas, when you see that clip, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, there are like three main elements over here. So, as you said, it is for a long time at the market, but now we're making that more accessible for everyone. So that's a huge opportunity for smaller studio, some individuals who are trying to enter the stage. For the big studios, like let's say Marvel, they're struggling with building next releases because of the load their teams have. And we are not replacing actually actors over here. We're replacing animators. We are making them, they can spend more time on building models, building textures, but not actually animating.
Yeah.
And that comes to the third point is, is acting, and
Yeah.
there's actor. Actor sometimes is a vessel, and
Yeah.
we are replacing the vessel. But you have actors who has massive range.
Yeah.
They can, AI will be still, they still needs a lot of improvement to be able to show their emotions, to reflect all this range of actual acting.
Yeah.
And that gives amazing opportunities. You have people like Andy Serkis who can play anyone.
Yeah.
If you just change the vessel around that. So this is the most exciting thing, as you said, for those unknown actors who don't maybe have a outside looks, but they have the talent to show the story.
Yeah, I think replacing a human for a human will be interesting. Probably more interesting than replacing like a human for a robot, because that'll get like a gimmick. That'll be boring pretty soon, I think. But I think that's really where this could potentially have legs. There is obviously the danger, and I think you mentioned it a second ago, Rui, about this could potentially be a bad thing as well. This could replace actors with CGI models. We did a clip on the podcast recently, a company called LaLaLand.ai, which is a virtual modeling studio. So Levi, the jeans company, they now are using AI models on their website, so you can select your gender, you can select your skin tone, ethnicity, and then it will show what somebody like you could look like in the clothing. And their view was, look, this is good for diversity, it's good for ED&I. I said, look, probably not, because you're actually not giving the diverse models a chance. You're just giving AI the job, so it's replacing the jobs. I do worry this might have the same effect. So maybe we won't even need actors in the future, because you can do machine learning to determine what the best image is for a person, and then just use that. Or could you have somebody like Tom Cruise's likeness? It's not quite Tom Cruise because it's just AI. Maybe you change the eyebrows or the eye color or something, and then boom, you don't get sued. Will we need actors, whether that's someone famous or not? What do you think, Rui?
I think the interesting bit is that you get better something by doing more of it.
Yeah.
And if humans do less of it, how do you become better, number one? And then there's so many elements of surprise in what you do, and how you become better something, which is a collaborative effort of errors, mistakes, polishing, being afraid, being brave, trying new things, how elements of failure make it better. And failure is the only thing that makes everything better, right? It's the process of getting somewhere new and more exciting. And I think that's part of the human experience, being taken through that journey of failure and honing the skills and coming with something new at the end of it. If AI is doing that, I think AI is becoming better. Humans are becoming better, but how much of it is actually us with our biology, the biological element that makes us unique, right? That's the thing. I think it's something to think about in the future. How is that going to play into the digitization of everything, right? And then the element of the new. Well, how many movies do you enjoy these days that are filled, packed with CGI?
Exactly.
And you get excitement out of them. It's just everything seems the same these days, right?
Yeah.
So I think we're more excited by things that makes us feel human. And usually it's a human getting those things out of us. Yes, you can get machines to makes us feel human, but usually there's something more than that. There's the biological sense of species and how we are all sharing the same journey. That's the bit that I don't know how we'll play into
this could be disastrous for like Disney or Pixar, because they've got like a monopoly on like all the CGI talent working for them. But if anybody can just rock up and create that, then why would they be able to hold on to that walled garden and that marketplace? What's your thoughts, Lorenzo, on the potential of actors being replaced by AI? Do you see that being a thing?
Yeah, I completely agree about the human experience. And actually, with like any industry, or like I said, I do a lot of music and things like that. I do believe there's something that right now we can't really capture in an AI format. So the response of someone feeling a certain way and acting in a certain way as a result, I don't believe right now we can do that with AI. Maybe it can be done in the future, but in terms of the consumer, so if you've taken a parallel with theatre versus current pop culture movies, people still go to the theatre. Theatres are still packed out because people have that need to see a raw performance.
Yes.
And so perhaps maybe I'm wrong, but like Rui says, I don't believe AI will be the norm in terms of the movies we do watch in the future.
Okay.
But let's see how it goes. Watch it back in 50 years' time, and
What's your take, Lucas?
First of all, I wouldn't worry about big studios. They will have enough money to buy every new thing, every new creation.
Yeah.
But it will open, of course, door for the talent. And the points you guys made about human, as I said before, it's still challenge, and we are still long way to be able to mimic the natural look of and behavior of human. And when you have an animation, which is the model looks almost alive, but there will be something cringe in the eyes, in the mimic. That's where we need the person. And if you look on this from this side, it's not so scary because it's the same like method acting or like makeup. We're just giving more range, and it actually can help diversify, because let's be honest, like all entertainment is still very inclusive. We still have a massive majority control, or maybe control, but taking the prime, and the rest struggle. And if you have someone from unrepresented background who is brilliant actor, they can jump in the skin of anyone, of any creature, of any person, and show the talent, and they can jump those barriers. And once they do that, they can actually start playing themselves once they establish their name and so on. So I wouldn't worry about that, because it's just another improvement for efficiency, how much time and money we're spending on building content. But everything will be still for humans and around humans.
Yeah.
Alfie, have you seen, you said quite an interesting point that you were talking about. It's happening in music, by the way. Quite recently, there's been a few artists being, a few pieces of music launched as the AI artist version, like
I
Drake.
can't stop listening to it. Kanye AI has replaced like 50% of my Spotify. And I've gone to YouTube because they don't really host it as much on Spotify. So I was tweeting Daniel Ek, the founder of Spotify, the other day about this, and like giving him a business plan on what to do. But I think it's really going to disrupt Apple, Spotify, if they don't really adapt onto the AI, because soon you'll be able to type in what song you want and who you want to sing it, and then boom, you got that song. That's a game changer.
There's a guy on YouTube called Ricky Beato. He's a musical producer from the States, and he's made a quite an interesting episode the other day about talking how it's going to play out in the future with step by step to the music industry in terms of the AI musicians, and how in the beginning everyone will see it as an opportunity it's another revenue stream, right?
Yeah.
But then the distributors will kind of the record labels will see it, okay, so we can produce our own artists, so we don't really need the artists.
Yeah.
And then they will start pumping music from these AI artists,
yeah.
which by the way, many people will prefer, as you were saying, because better quality, probably better tuning of the voice, more creativity, more things to explore. But then how is it going to play out from there is that the distributors like Spotify, Apple Music, and all the others will see, well, we don't really need the artists and the labels, so we can pump our own AI artists. And they
maybe, man. I mean, Grimes has just said that she'll give 50%.
50%,
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Grimes's ex-husband is the topic of the next conversation, right? Hey, this podcast is brought to you by WeLoveAlpha.com. If you're looking to grow and hire and scale your software engineering team in the UK, then go to WeLoveAlpha.com to hire the best software developers on the market. Everything across Java to C# to PHP to Python to React and Angular and mobile and more. Go to WeLoveAlpha.com to hire the best software engineers in the UK now. So Mr. Musk had the historic Starship launch the other day. I'll show the clip on the screen. This is Starship, the rocket he says will take us to Mars. The largest ever moving object, I believe, and can carry, I believe it's 300 people, but I could be wrong in saying that. And his plan is to take this to Mars, to build a colony, to build a civilization on there, and stop us from being a one planet species. Obviously, that comes with its dangers. If something went wrong on Earth and we don't have eggs in different baskets, then we're kind of screwed. But there it is, flying up, and as predicted, as expected, as they said, really, bang! It does blow up. I mean, I don't think anyone expected this first attempt to go to Mars, right? I mean, if you look back on the history of rockets, they fail, they iterate, they get better, and then eventually we get to the moon, eventually we'll get to Mars, right? But keen to get your perspectives. Obviously, Mr. Musk is very controversial, so I don't care if you love him or hate him. It's not about that, but just keen to see what you think about the launch, really. So we'll go, Lorenzo. What's your take on that whole event?
To be honest, I don't have too many strong thoughts. I mean, obviously, since I was young, I've always wanted to explore in space, and the idea of being on a different planet and all the movies we used to watch as a result of that, I would be very, very excited at the thought of, obviously, maybe not in my lifetime, but the thought of us being able to be on another planet, for example, Mars. I always look at, what other Earth-like planets might there be out there, and right now I don't believe we know any. But I
mean, there's just potentially billions, trillions of them. I mean, right, we're a grain of sand in the grand scheme of things. What's your take, Lucas, on Starship?
So I wouldn't worry about a failure, because as you said, like, this is another try, and every failure comes to some greater result. And with Musk, it's always interesting because there are many layers to whatever he's doing. Like, not like we're sitting in his head, but when he was sending Tesla to the space, everyone was talking about that. But actually, that secured him a lot of contracts of delivering other goods to the space, satellites, etc. There's always this something going in the background next to the big story. So, recently we're talking how he was changing, without judging, changing Twitter and his effect on it. Everyone stopped talking about it at the moment because everyone talks about rockets. So from PR perspective, amazing thing for him and for his endeavors. When it comes to the space, I think people on this level may be thinking in different categories than we. So we will be thinking about how to get with our lives and so on. And we are not even thinking about being on the moon. But if you control so much wealth and look in the future, these headlines are very interesting. Let's build a colony. But probably there will be something in between, and that's a lot about exploration, about getting resources from asteroids, even from the moon. Anything that can be capitalized. That's probably something happening over there. So I wouldn't be so much excited about headlines, because they're just driving force for investors. But he is building something, and we'll see that soon.
Absolutely, yeah. It'll be very interesting to see, even if in our lifetimes, that he manages to pull that off. Rui, what's your perspective on the SpaceX historic launch?
There's a few angles to it that I am fascinated by. One is the failure, which I think is fantastic. It shows the Silicon Valley mentality that the world could adopt a little bit better. This notion that when something explodes, you can learn from it. It's an experiment. It's a data collection. It's an iteration, agile ways of working, of thinking, mentality, right? Which I think makes things move in the right way. Experiment, feedback, learn, adapt, try again. Your next iteration will become better. So that's one angle I really like about these. Not them celebrating the explosion of it's quite iconic, right? I loved it. The other angle I think it's interesting is that the Chinese was the space program of China was looking at the footage from the launch in detail and trying to learn from it as well, which is, for me, was another interesting angle where they could see that it was the flight control system that failed, and with that they learned, and they got it pretty right, because a few days later, then I think it was Elon himself confirming that was the issue with the explosion. So how you can learn from these things these days, because we're sharing so much data, so much real-time things that it was picked up. And finally, the ambition of getting to Mars. I grew up watching Star Trek, so you know my answer right away, which I think is fantastic.
Would you want to go then? If I said, here's free tickets to Mars, I asked this question a few times on the pod, just sort of yes or no from each of you. Would you want to go?
I would say yes, but my wife wouldn't let me.
Yes, but for retirement.
For retirement, okay. And yourself, Rui?
Yeah, I would, as a tourist, yes.
Okay, all of you, I mean, me included. I mean, most people will say no, and they look at me really confused when I ask that question. But yeah, I mean, let's do it. Let's go. No, that would be fun. But hey, one day maybe. Anyway, the next piece of news is all about artificial intelligence. It seems to be dominating this podcast recently for obvious reasons. But this is what appears to be a video of a drone. However, this is not what it appears. This is not a video. This was not shot on a drone. This is a collection of pictures which AI stitches together to create what appears to be a video, which could completely change drones. It could replace them if you could upload a couple of pictures and then turn it into a video. This was created by researchers from Google and I believe Stanford University, and they've created something pretty groundbreaking. I've never seen anything like this before, so it definitely kind of caught my attention when it was tweeted to me. If you enjoy the show and would like to send me clips on Twitter, then my handle is on the screen. That's where somebody first sent this to me. What are your thoughts when you see this clip and kind of how quickly AI is advancing and all of that stuff? Lucas, we'll start with yourself.
On one side, it may look just like a small gimmick. On another iteration on how we can present spherical, spacious images. You can have the same effect with 360 camera at the moment, and probably with a lower cost and bigger availability.
Yeah.
But the most interesting thing is actually how they're building that, because they have to model the space. So they have to scan, they have to build 3D models and render textures and guess, like basically using some math regression, some stats, guess what will be over there. And this has even more power than the video itself. Video is nice, but imagine if they do that as a service. They can do wider scanning of spaces. Being like, if that goes through retail agents, then company owning that could have a detailed map of most houses around the customer base.
What about Google Earth? Like, imagine if you could walk through Google Earth in VR or something, and it's like perfect.
Yeah. So again, the value will be for a few silos. There will be one for the customer, who can have nice representation on the Google Maps. They can see how my picnic would look like if I go to Clapham Park. I can just look around. That would be nice. But then this data can be sold again, for some ads, how we place ads to be more visible. Yes, for real estate agency where we can build something. So this data mining from spacious information over there, that's the gold, probably hidden again, behind nice advertising message saying about it. Let's have a cool videos.
Yeah. What's your take, Rui, when you see that clip?
Yeah, I mean, 3D, CGI, AR, VR,
it's a combination of a lot of things, right? All the buzzwords.
Yeah. I love it. I really do, because when I left civil engineering, I didn't like it as my first degree. What took me into software engineering is exactly CGI and 3D Studio Max and Maya, all those is this area. So I've been in love with it for a while, so a few decades. I'm not. It's interesting because it doesn't concern me much, because you're talking about the evolution of artificial intelligence, which is There's angles to it that, like Geoffrey Hinton and so many others, the engineers from Google talking about sentience in AI, that worries me more than necessarily that. That has a lot of value. You can save a lot of money in many processes that were cumbersome. Measuring things that doesn't make sense anymore with a ruler. You can actually use AI to for creativity, for human creativity, and also for AI creativity.
Sure.
Doesn't concern me much. I think the potential is huge, and the 2-minute paper, I think it was the YouTube channel, talks a lot about the potentials of these things and how you can be, how many of them are still finding a market because the potential is ridiculously high. The evolution of AI, that's where your second angle, that's the bit that really concerns me.
I'm probably more concerned about the sentience part than drone photographers being replaced as well. But the whole Geoffrey thing with him leaving Google is insane, and it'll be interesting to see if his predictions pan out to be true. I mean, he is like the godfather of AI. This is which is like the best label to have on you right now. If you like from a sales and marketing perspective, I mean, he's hit the gold. I mean, the jackpot, right? What's your take, Lorenzo, when you see that clip?
So I suppose one question would be, why would you use that instead of, say, using a 360 camera? I guess the answer could be about cost. I don't know. But I think what's interesting would be that using a 360 camera means that whatever you've produced is that. It can't be changed, Whereas if you're talking about advertising a product or advertising a house for sale or whatever it is, even not just a house for sale, any product, any service, any building you want someone to buy or rent or something, you can then look into what they personally look at, data or whatever data they've got on the marketing side, and then hit them first with whatever they're most interested in first. Like, what photo would they be most likely to carry on watching that video for? So that's what I think this could be quite powerful for.
Hi there, just dropping you a message to let you know that I would love to give you a free copy of my brand new salary guide for UK software engineers. If you're a software developer watching this, then you can use this report to finally see if you're being paid what you're worth. Or if you're a technology leader, you can use this data to make sure that your team is being compensated fairly. All of this info is completely free, but for a limited time only, so make sure that you download it now. Just scan the QR code on the screen right now to get your free PDF copy, or go to welovealpha.com/salary guide to access the data now. This is similar in some respects, but more video game related. But a clip that I recently came across shows what potentially could be like the most advanced video game graphics that we've ever seen. And I literally did a segment like 2 months ago on the podcast, and I said exactly the same thing. So I mean, I could just do unlimited, segments of amazing video game graphics getting better and better over time, just given how quickly they're advancing. But this, I mean, when you have this sort of thing in VR, and I don't believe this is in VR yet, but when it gets there, then that could be insane. But this is showing like a first-person perspective. It almost looks like you've got a body cam on, just like the graffiti. I mean, that looks pretty insane. You can kind of tell it's a video game. There is a little bit later where he kind of jumps, and then it becomes a bit more obvious. But if I showed this to you and just said, hey, here's a clip, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't know this was a video game. Now you can tell when he jumps like that. I think it's kind of it becomes a little obvious, but we're seeing with like the Unreal Engine just how crazy it's getting, and this probably isn't available on your Nintendo Switch, right? You need something a little bit more powerful to be able to play this. But the way that it's going, the way that it's leading, it's just getting insane and to the point where you'll be able to play a video game, live out your real world life, and the difference will very soon be indistinguishable, really, which when you hook it up to VR, I mean, that poses an interesting question. Are we going to be living in virtual worlds? Is Mark finally going to be right on his prediction? And will we have legs in VR? Please give us legs. That'd be great. But anyway, when we see that clip, when we see how amazing video game graphics are getting from Pong a couple of decades ago to that, let's get your perspectives. Rui, what what comes to mind when you see that?
Fascination as well, and some worries. Fascination. I mean, just think about the possibilities of training doctors, training pilots. Teaching your children risks. Make them exploratory, discovery-oriented, all of that. I think that's fantastic, right?
That's right. So it's not just about games; it's about the simulation part. If I love playing like Farming Simulator, for example, right? But if there was like Surgeon Simulator or Firefighter Simulator or Military Simulator, I mean, Call of Duty is basically military simulator, right? But if you could do those things before doing a job, I mean, you're going to just be so much better because of the muscle memory and the experience that you've got in the metaverse, as opposed to you'll pick that up in the real world pretty quickly. Lucas, what's your take on that clip?
Yeah, of course, it's exciting for games and entertainment. For previous points, where you, Lorenzo, is when you combine it with this drone idea, if we can swap, let's say, textures, if someone is interested into this house, but we have data about, how it's built, we can, with client, see, what will be your vision after you buy it, after you paint it. That's amazing. And to this learning, that can have massive therapeutic abilities. Like if some trauma treatment, sometimes you have to replay some events to deal with them. Like, for instance, personally, I'm very interested into road safety. If we could give something like that to anyone who's passing driving test, and show them what can be the result of them holding the phone, even in slow traffic, and hitting someone.
Oh yeah,
I bet we'll have a far fewer people on the phones who are driving.
Yes.
So this could be amazing, and again, it is a tool which gives us a lot of opportunities. If someone uses it for filming, horror game and horror movies, we can actually have a trauma to deal with. But it's too exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your perspective, Lorenzo?
I love this topic because I grew up being a gamer. I absolutely love video games. So thanks for introducing this. I've been looking forward to talking about this one. I'll try not to take too long, but the thing that got me on this was this might be my age as I'm getting older, but it kind of was very scary watching that clip of someone really like shooting someone and it looking so realistic, and like kind of frightened me. Now, is it my age? Because when I was growing up, it was around the time when Mortal Kombat first came out, and it became huge. Like, I think Mortal Kombat was the reason they introduced ratings into games, because it was, the first time you could see blood and you were punching people or whatever. Parents were not happy about it and everything like that. Now I'm a parent. Yeah, it really scares me at the thought of my kid playing a game like that. And then, is it because it's so realistic? And if it is, then what kind of controls would there be in place to sort of prevent? Yeah. And again, another game that I grew up with there was Grand Theft Auto when that first came out. Again, another very questionable, very questionable ethic in terms of ethics and shaping young people's minds. And that's the big kind of concern, but also super excited with all the other points that have been made about training and I'd love to get my hands on it actually, but let's see. I
mean, we've been waiting for GTA 6 for a long time now, right? And when when that drops and you have these graphics in, where do people go in GTA? They go to the strip club. they go and punch people randomly on the street. They chasing away from the police and having helicopters chasing them. I mean, it's going to be insane. I mean, the game must be amazing. Otherwise, people are going to be very disappointed after seeing something like this. Another thing that I think is really interesting about games, and I'll probably show this clip on a future podcast, is people are starting to use GPT for NPCs in video games. So when you're having a conversation with them, it's not the same one or two sentences that they give you, and it's just like somebody walking up and down on a road. You can have a conversation with them, ask them, type in any question, and they'll give you an answer, and they'll remember that past answer, and that can interfere with other aspects of the game. So that will be really fascinating when you have that with NPCs, when you have these graphics, when you have that in virtual reality. I mean, it poses the question: are we going to get to a point soon where video games are indistinguishable from real life. And if that happens, you know, especially with like the younger generation, people are going to be living in them, right? I've got, you know, the latest VR tech, and it's fun, but I go on it for like an hour every 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, it's I can't be on it for a long time. But I have you know, friends that are younger, cousins and etc. And they're growing up with it. You know, it's like having a, you know, the old GTA like San Andreas or Vice City that you probably used to play when you were younger, right? It's that's their norm now. So it poses the question, if they're living in that, if that's their reality, if that's what they're going to be used to, and they're going to be using that just as much as a smartphone. So do you think we'll get to that point where games are, you know, you can't tell the difference, and that, you know, people will be living in them? What's your take, Lucas?
I'm afraid we are right there.
Already there,
we don't need the games. If you look how people are treating any information they get from online, since the dawn of social media, people are taking everything by granted. It can be just some tweet, and that would drive their emotions, drive the way how they perceive other people. It's so easy to influence people this way. And if you see how many people are immersed in social media every single day, if you're on the tube, everyone is staring at that. So we already have that problem. There's a bigger social problem to deal with, and we need to address that with learning education. In the early days, parents have a lot to do, which is difficult because sometimes we resort to this giving Nintendo Switch to a child, so we have our 5 seconds of time for ourselves. So I don't think it will make it far worse, because it's just a tool. It's like hammer can be used to kill someone or to build a house. But it won't. The way it may help, actually, it makes the problem more obvious. Because now, if you look on the phone, you don't see that being a scary thing. But while you're seeing such a graphic, you may think, oh, right, maybe that's going too far. And that gives some hope.
Yeah. People have been saying that forever, though, haven't they? Like, you shouldn't play GTA, you know, Liberty City, because it's too violent. And you shouldn't play Doom. I mean, that one was violent. That one was, but I mean, now it's maybe starting to make sense when you have something like this. But you know, we'll have to see if I don't know if there is any connection, because, you know, everybody sees movies every day of everything from the Avengers, and I mean, that's got people getting, you know, half the universe gets killed in a flick of a, you know, fingers. Should we ban kids from watching that? I mean, probably not. I mean, you know, putting rubber tape over everything is probably not the answer, right?
I guess the difference is that consuming something, when you look at it, is different from acting on it and doing it yourself. I think it's like you said about the muscle memory, not like muscle memory means you're going to go out and just do all that stuff, but like, it's just, that's the slight difference when you like most people learn by doing. It's
such like new territory that we just don't know the answer, do we? I mean, we're all just speculating, and that's basically what we do all the time on the show. But what's your view, Rui, on that clip, and I suppose specifically what we're saying around it being indistinguishable from real life? Do you think that's going to happen? Do you see that being a good thing, a bad thing? What's your take on that?
It's interesting because it reminds me of Inception, the movie, where you had the dreamers, you know, and the drugs living in a dream world. I think there's a real danger of detachment, alienation, which is kind of the scary part of it. How deep do you go into these fantasy world that then it becomes more interesting than the real world? I think it's also down to, I mean, if you look at what's happening to humanity, right? We're becoming more people in sharing less resources, well, at least there's lack of resources, of course. And these, by the way, we're discussing first world problems, as a friend of mine used to say, because, you know, in so many areas of the world, this is not even a problem. There are far other bigger problems to think about. But it is the direction we're all going. And I think we really need to think, we've been thinking about these things for a while now, because Inception, how many years it has?
10 years ago?
10 years, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And Star Trek, if you go back, many of these philosophical questions were being asked decades ago in the 70s, some of them earlier on in the Forbidden Planet that gave birth to the series Star Trek. I think alienation is the biggest fear, the detachment from reality, and then the fiction becomes more interesting than reality,
Yeah.
and how that then will probably take away some people from reality that will prefer to live in a fantasy world for sure, like the dreamers in Inception, right?
Yeah.
Probably for others will be exactly the opposite, where just the fear of the happening will make you connect more in real life. So I think there's a bit of everything. We don't know yet the massive trend. And the risks, because there are risks of violence, mimicking what they see on a game happens. Portugal is a good example. We didn't used to have violent crimes, and then there was one a couple of years ago that's now being in court. Judge, two very very young kids did exactly what Dexter was doing on the series. TV show, yeah.
Not Dexter's Laboratory.
No. Dexter's the serial
Yeah.
killer. So that is the angle of these things that are always gonna be there. The bright side, the dark side, and then it's how you navigate that into regulating it, finding way we want to go as a species, as society, and you'll have, I think, a buffet of choices in front of you. Is which one are you going to take, and find out the real impact, because this is not just human beings here, right? There's animals, there's ecosystems, there's oceans, there's a lot of many other things that are far probably more important even. Yeah. So how do you combine that in the formula of the future? It's what we're still figuring out, and it's not now. It's been happening for decades. We still don't have the answer.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever have the answer. I mean, it's there's so many questions that come from the cutting edge tech, which just doesn't. There are no easy answers, and a buffet of choices is probably what's going to happen. You can try and regulate and ban stuff, but the way that open source works, and everyone has the internet. I mean, you can just find a ROM or download it somewhere. I think the idea of living in a virtual world tees up the next segment perfectly, which is AI has basically created the Matrix. I mean, I don't really know how else to say that, but so researchers from Stanford and Google have created a virtual world like The Sims for 25 AI agents. Users can watch as the agents meet for coffee, attend school, form relationships, share news, and more. And this obviously poses the question, are we potentially living in an advanced version of this game? You can see on the picture there, people going for coffee, them talking. This goes to exactly what I was saying earlier about the NPCs having their own dialect and it not just being a one or two sentence script. But yeah, interesting, right? So what are your thoughts on that story, I suppose, and where that could lead to? Lorenzo, what's your take?
So I think I didn't have too many thoughts, because obviously I did play The Sims when I was younger, and it's like pretty much that, but the difference being that instead of you playing the game, you're watching an AI play the game, right? It's pretty much it.
Yes. Yeah.
So where could that go eventually? That's the question, right? And maybe if it's linked in with this, what we just talked about, the virtual world. Yeah. That would be quite something. Honestly, I don't think there's any particular concerns I've got with that, to be honest.
Where it could go is if you believe that giving enough computing power, it becomes sentient, then you have, they wake up and then they're, potentially living in, is that science fiction, or is that something that could happen? Is consciousness uniquely biological? Or if you give something enough power, does it then wake up if it has the same firing power that our brains have? Who knows? I mean, nobody knows the answer to it. Yeah. I mean, right now it's a fun little game. It's The Sims, but where could that lead to? And then if that does create that, do they have rights? Do we have to, would turning the game off kill them? Would that be illegal? I mean, who knows what the answer is, right? How does that play into religion, into politics, into history? What's your view, Rui, when you hear about that news story?
What you just said is fascinating, Alfie, because I'm not sure if you've seen an episode called The Measure of Men, where Jean-Luc Picard tries to defend data.
I was just thinking that,
right? Because it's exactly what Alfie was saying.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you go to court and defend the right of a robot that has sentience level from being dismembered for scientific research? It's an episode of Star Trek, I think, from the 1991 or 2 or something like that. Okay. So, and it touches upon these topics so well. I highly recommend seeing it because exactly what you were saying. If you turn off, and by the way, the engineer from Google that resigned the other day on the topic of the ethics and sentience of. He recognized sentience.
This being Jeffrey.
No. It's another one.
This was a few months ago. The guy who believed it was sentient.
Yes. And Google was kind of saying no, it's not sentient, and he was saying yes, it's sentient. The Lambda, I think it was the system he was working on.
Yeah, like early Bard.
Yes.
Sort of thing.
Yeah. I believe it's actually sentient because if you look at the definition of sentience, which means having the perception of the world around, the feelings and emotions of a human being.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is true of dogs. Lobsters are sentient as well.
Yes.
Octopus are sentient, right?
Correct,
So there's many biological beings that are sentient, not just human beings. And there's the ethical question about if you turn them off, are you killing them? Is that a murder? Because it manifestates itself in the same way that we do, and it has the principles of consciousness.
Yeah.
So there's a philosophical question here, and that's the beauty of these, because the way that we answer that question might be the way that we answer the same questions when we come across other cultures in space, in the universe, when we come across them, and how do we respect that? Are we so arrogant to think that we are the only ones entitled to it?
Yeah.
Or
well,
is
we're
this...
not, are we? I mean, that's the answer. But I mean, to us, and we don't know who they are, they're aliens. I mean, you always try and put your tribe first above everything else, which is interesting. Like, is it Sergey Brin and Elon? They had an argument, and Sergey called, I think it was Sergey, who called Elon a speciesist because he was worried about AI taking over humans, which is exactly what you're saying. Like, you know, should we see it as equal? I mean, I don't think we should, but others might disagree. What's your view when you see that clip, Lucas?
I'll first maybe respond to what you really said. It's the question: if we're in Avatar, are we the humans invading the planet?
Yeah.
Are we indigenous species over there, and on which side we want to position ourselves? With this simulation, I'm not so worried about it itself, because it's something in between, like live game we had in early computers, and just model simulation of a market, let's say. So still someone had to define goals or give some data to mimic for the AI, and it's just doing prediction based on that, and the rest is just some entropy around. So I wouldn't worry too much. Even I wouldn't worry too much about sentient as we define it, because the problem becomes when some being we can call sentient learns the fear, because we still can have AI which is totally intelligent, which can be aware. That's the question, what we define by aware, of own persistence, but if it's afraid of being gone, that's where we have a problem.
Yes.
And if we look on most as sci-fi, the problem is actually when Skynet don't want to be killed. But if Skynet knows that it was built by humans to help humans to correct the way they are living without destroying them, then it can be times more intelligent, and it wouldn't hurt them. It may do some things which humans wouldn't decide to do. It may be controversial, but the end goal will be preservation of your creator.
Yes.
The same like people will be defending their own beliefs. We will be a deity.
We hope that's what happens.
And,
yeah.
And by the way, this is the point that Jeffrey Hinton alluded to recently, where that's the problem, right? Which is the fitness algorithm of successful AI when it becomes angry and against humans. That's the problem, because the positive angle, there's no issues with that. We can cure cancer. We can solve climate crisis probably with AI. There's so many things.
Weapons,
energy, probably even neutralizing the problems with nuclear weapons. Right. The problem is exactly that. What if the AI becomes angry and the fitness algorithm is against our existence. That's the what he's trying to ask us to pause, think about that. How do we prevent that from happening, if ever we can? And consider that, because that's the problem.
Well, anger's an emotion, right? And AI, well, most people would say doesn't have emotions. But you said a second ago that you believed it was sentient. Now, you might not believe sentient in the same way that we're sentient, right? You obviously have a different definition, and I'd probably agree with you in I can see where you're coming from that angle, right? Do you think it could ever become sentient in the same way that we are? So,
it will understand, because you can actually. At the moment, as we speak, people are integrating audio, vision, perception of expressions.
So it's becoming a digital.
Yeah, in a way, it's even more accurate than the majority of human beings in understanding how do you feel.
But can it think for itself? So that's a Turing test, isn't it? Can it? I mean, it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. But can it have unique ideas?
Oh yeah.
You think?
It's already manifesting that with new ideas, breakthroughs, right?
Yeah.
So that's not a question. Jeffrey kind of mentioned that in his interviews recently, where he thought that a super intelligence, which is the discussion between him or the argument between him and the CEO of Google, Larry Page, I think he was, that they were arguing about the super intelligence. Yeah. Jeffrey said, I used to think that was so far in the future, like to 2050 or beyond. And he said, I just realized recently that's way closer than...
Ray Kurzweil might have been late in his prediction about the singularity. I mean, the thing about what Jeffrey's saying is when AI, if you have a human needing to learn something, if they learn and then you want everybody to learn that, everybody's got to learn that. But if AI learns something, it's all connected. So every AI is instantly smarter than every human combined on the planet, instantly. So, and then when that gets hooked up to every microphone through IoT, through every video stream, when that gets hooked up onto, and then you send them out into space and you have 3D printers printing 3D printers, and it's just self-replicating, each one having mics on them, each one having sensors, each one having video feeds, all going into the super intelligence cloud brain. I mean, that's going to be way smarter than a human. And hopefully it doesn't wake up and go, why have we got these monkeys running around, or that's what happens when you take over another country. Back in the old days, you'd invade and you'd get rid of the the old population and you'd become the super intelligence. I mean, is AI going to do that to us? Who knows? Hopefully not. I mean, I really love you, Boston Dynamics. I love your robots. You're all great. Please don't kill me. What's your take on the sentient side of that, Lorenzo? Do you
I was trying to, as you were talking, so two things as you were talking that I was thinking about as well is like, how do you put regulations or stoppers in the code of the AI so they can't do crazy things?
Because somebody else is just going to take it out.
Yeah, so that's one thing. And even if you could, then who sets those rules? Because we're a global population. It's like every country has different laws. So that's the problem. Now, the other thing about, I was trying to remember what I learned at school about what it means to be living. It's something along the lines of people that need to eat to survive, people that reproduce, people. I can't remember the acronym to save my life. I'm going to Google it later.
Therefore I am is the old.
There's like a set of rules, and I guess AI doesn't really follow many of those rules. So like you say, what is the definition of sentience? And we all understand that we shouldn't harm other creatures like animals and things like that. But I suppose when you look at AI, it's what is it exactly? You've created it for a purpose. If they know their purpose, then what does it matter? I don't know. Yeah. I don't really have a strong opinion yet on it, to be honest.
Okay.
But it's just interesting to talk about those kinds of things. And if you were to take them out into actually, like say, produce a human, like adding all those sensors in there, it does feel wrong in terms of if they're telling you they don't want to be shut down or whatever it is.
Yeah, do you trust it?
You yourself would feel bad, right? Us as humans wouldn't want to do that.
Oh, I have empathy when I see videos of Boston Dynamics robots getting kicked. Because I've got a dog, I'm like, hey, you can't do that. like Peter, get involved. I mean, help them out. Yeah. Maybe they'll remember all those people, all those poor researchers. Maybe the backlash will happen when the singularity happens. Okay, I suppose let's just finish off the episode with a simple question. Are we excited or more terrified about where all this is heading? This has been very much an AI themed episode. So excited, you really optimistic about the future, or do you think it's gonna potentially the dangers might outweigh the pros of this, right? This is kind of where the entire world is thinking right now. So let's just give a 10-second answer. What do you think, Łukasz? Are you more excited or are you more scared right now?
I'm excited because anything which is terrifying is just mirror of ourselves.
Okay.
We are trying to see what's scary in technology, but the problem always will be on the human side rather than in the tools.
Okay, Rui?
I'm probably more terrified than excited. I've been mostly excited. At the moment, I'm more terrified because it's big tech giving us the answer at the moment. And I think philosophers, anthropologists, so many other schools of thought need to come into play to help us find the right answers. Yeah. It can't be a commercial decision. It can't be big tech deciding it just because they can. It has to be everyone involved in this conversation, and it's been one-sided mostly lately. So I think we need to open up and have deeper conversations. But I've been mostly excited. Now I'm slightly terrified because it's increasing the speed a lot.
Lorenzo?
I'm excited and optimistic. I just think that there somehow needs to be some regulation somewhere and some guarantees.
So you'd sign Elon's pause letter, put his signature on it. They said they should pause AI development for 6 months. Maybe you'd be open to that sort of thing until we can figure out what the answer is.
Yeah, if it's possible. I don't even know even if you've signed something, if it's even possible to stop it.
I think you two are the optimists. I think
I'm optimistic.
I'll join Rui. I'm pretty scared by all this. It keeps me up at night in a weird way. Yeah, we'll have to just wait and see what happens. Is what I say on every episode. But yeah, that's basically it. Cool. Thanks for coming in. Good to get your perspectives. Thank you all for watching. If you're still at the end, then you know what to do with all the likes and the comments and the da-da-da-da. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for watching this podcast. Make sure that you like, subscribe, follow, comment, etc., etc. And I'll see you in the next episode.